So are you in favor, like, of lowering the years that you should own a cannabis company from 7 to 3 years, or
I
what do you
actually am. I
suggest?
mean, it's tough because we already saw 2 dispensaries close, right? So those people couldn't get out of that business. They couldn't sell that business. So maybe if they were allowed to sell, it might have saved those people, right? I think that you have to allow people to exit in business. So for you to hamstring me to keep this business for 7 years, there's been no cannabis market that hasn't plummeted after 5 years. Like if anyone could show me an example of a cannabis market that's lasted 7 years, then please. So what you're doing is you're actually making the social equity business hold on to what could be an albatross or anchor around their neck, right? And now you got to hold it, and you can't sell it when every American wants to sell and exit at the prime of the business. Right? So now you got to hold it for 7 years. So in 7 years, the market price is going to drop in half, everything's going to tank. And now you're only allowing me as a social equity applicant or social equity person to sell when the market's at its lowest. So what happens if, like, my grandmother gets sick and I don't have any money to help her? My only asset is this business. I can't even sell it and get out to raise money to do anything, send my kids to college, to leverage this business at all. So I think making everyone wait for almost a decade is a little difficult.
So piggyback on that. So if you wanted to sell a lot earlier, so are we looking to open it up for anybody to buy it? Because I think what happened in Colorado was that all the companies, outside folks came in, outside entrepreneurs, rich people came in and bought all the businesses, right? There was no control, and there was no chance for people that lived in Colorado to buy it. So do we restrict that again? Like, if you're gonna sell your company, let's say we give it up to 5 years, and you're gonna sell it, and then allow somebody from out of state to buy it? So eventually, if everybody starts selling it, don't you think that eventually all out-of-state companies are gonna come in and buy it? That's almost like what's happening in housing, right?
Yeah.
You have people from New York and New Jersey that come into Connecticut, think that the laws that they have in New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts are the laws that they can practice here in Connecticut. And then they buy these huge buildings, they develop all this stuff, and then they don't want to fix anything, right? It's hard to get a hold of them because that's what happens in Meriden. So how do you control that from the onset so the same thing doesn't happen? We got to hear from you what's going to make it work, because I really don't know much about cannabis. I just know about voting for it, and I know that eventually people are going to cancel each other out. It's like when you have too many restaurants in one block, right?
Absolutely.
You have 4, 5, 6 Puerto Rican restaurants in one block, and if you don't have good food, nobody's going to go to your restaurant, and then the other ones are going to go out of business, or whoever's the best is going to stay in business. That's basically what's going to happen with cannabis.
For sure. And I think that the focus needs to be on, like, making sure we have a thriving market and a thriving industry, because that's really what's going to end up helping social equity, right? A handful of people owning in the business, I don't know if that's going to create the generational wealth that people are expecting, but having a thriving industry where actually dollars can pour back into the community, and you can still put that restriction on whoever owns it. It doesn't matter who owns it, you can still have the restriction where money has to go back into the community and money has to go back into these DIAs. It's difficult to put all these hamstrings on a business, because it just makes it, the asset makes it difficult to operate, and it makes it difficult to sustain, it makes it difficult to raise money. Right? Because right now I can't even raise money. If we need money right now for operational costs, I can't sell part of my 65% to raise more money. And there's just not enough money out there. And now with just $3 million that we had to pay, it weighs the business down, right? Mm-hmm. So it's $3 million that didn't go into the equity of the business. We literally just lit $3 million on fire, right? So that already weighs the balance sheet down with $3 million, right? So it puts us in a difficult situation, and it doesn't help us at all. I think that the dream of having this industry 50% owned and controlled by social equity was devastated from the start, right? It was devastated when the state asked people who didn't have $3 million for $3 million just to get into the market. And then it was devastated where a lot of these people that came in, not everyone, because this didn't happen with me, because I had great attorneys. But if you don't have a great attorney, you're gonna get eaten up with that paperwork. There's no way you can get through that paperwork because all these other companies have, $700 an hour attorneys. So now you're, as a social equity person coming in, some of them even went with the company's attorney. Some of them didn't have attorneys, or some of them had like a real estate attorney that was helping them. So the money that you have to put up for the business is a lot. You don't have the legal representation, and now you have a weird deal, right? So I just think that, like I said, the $3 million was the main hindrance of the dream of half the market being owned and controlled, because none of us had that money. So I don't know how it's already, like, the ship has already left the stations per se on that dream, because if you look at these companies aren't, the people who are in there now, social equity candidates don't control these companies. It's like me and like a handful of other people maybe that actually look like me that actually control their company. If you really look at these companies and who controls it, and you see who's making the decisions, who's doing all the work, it's not the social equity applicant.
Well, thanks for coming in and testifying. So, Representative Candelaria, that looks like it might need another task force, right?